Hey everybody, this is Sergio with the RideShare Guy. Today I'm joined by Matt. He's one of our own contributors at the RideShare Guy, and we're going to talk about something that's really near and dear to my heart, actually, which is unjust deactivations by all these gig companies, and specifically when it comes to Uber and Lyft, because they do put their drivers through routine background checks. In fact, maybe every 6 months to a year. So, Matt is here to tell us about his story. Now, these background checks are done obviously to see what's happened in the past year or so as far as criminal complications are concerned, but they're also sometimes done erroneously by these companies, specifically through Checker. So, Matt, how are you? How's it going? Actually, tell us a little bit about how long you've been driving for Uber and Lyft, as well as how you started, how you got into the gig economy, what you did before, and then we'll get going after that.
Sure. So I'm Matt. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I've been driving on various platforms for about 6.5 years, over 11,000 trips amongst Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, etc. Started as a part-time side hustle along with my corporate job. After about 5.5 years or so, I got burned out of corporate America, and I've kind of turned it into a more of a full-time hustle now. But working with RSG and some other small businesses to kind of move away from driving and just kind of build a life of more flexibility and freedom for myself by finding other ways to make money besides driving. Um, but yeah, everything was going fine on the platforms until I got noticed that my account was deactivated, and I had no idea why. So if I get into the story,
Well, before you get into that
oh,
story,
sorry.
so you have had done, obviously, you've been in it for 6.5 years, as you said, on many different platforms, right?
Correct.
And you had gone through background checks before, obviously, because they do it practically every 6 to 8 months to a year. Lyft maybe, maybe once a year, but Uber, as we know, does quite a few background checks. And also they ask you to verify who you are by taking a picture in the middle of a trip. So,
Correct.
so to us,
Um,
to you, it must have been quite a bit of a shock that you got a deactivation letter after
abs
passing many background checks, right?
yeah, absolutely. And just to clarify, I don't know if it's a difference, but was through the DMV. This was like a driving record check. I guess that's same thing as a background check, but
Same thing. Yeah. What they
yeah.
do is they run a local background check and they run a federal background check. And then,
Mhm.
the company that they do it through is Checker, has been Checker for years and years now. So one morning you wake up and then you want to drive or you want to deliver and
Correct.
turn the app on and say, bye bye, Matt, you're gone, right?
Yeah, your account's deactivated. Please contact the record company and see what the issue is. And to be honest, it's hard to get a hold of a real person because if I could have just talked to a real person, maybe they would have understood. But it was a little bit more difficult than that.
Right.
Uh,
So I mean, what did you do? Obviously, we know how lacking or how inefficient these companies support um, you know, departments are. So you want to make money, you can make money, right? And I
Correct.
mean, we're all in it for the same reason. We just want to get
Mhm.
out there and then on our own terms and time, we want to make some money and go back home.
Yeah.
So what were the next steps? I mean, did they ever tell you why you were deactivated?
So they said there was an issue with a check from the DMV. And so the first thing I did was went to the DMV website, pulled my record to see, if I could see anything on there. And what I will tell you is that for many years, I had to have a doctor's note on record to drive because of a medical condition. And that note has been on my record since I've been driving because I've had this one on my record for 15 plus years. And the doctor last year said, "Hey, Matt, you've been well. Everything's been good. Your medicine's controlling what your issue is. So I think we can take this note off your record." So the issue was that when they took the note off the record, it showed up as an administrative suspension. And so I knew exactly right away that that's what it was. And I tried telling the rideshare company and the record check company that this was the issue, and they wouldn't listen. And I also asked the DMV, I said, "Do you see anything on my record that would prevent me from driving for rideshare companies?" And they said, no. They said to me, have them contact us here at the DMV and we will set the record straight. And of course, nobody would contact the DMV on my behalf. And so that was the issue. And then I was having a lot of trouble knowing how to get that resolved because the DMV said, this is how we do things. We can't remove that. That's how it shows on the record. That's what we do. And we can't remove it.
Yeah, so you pretty much did whatever you could do to resolve the issue, but then you didn't get anywhere, right?
Correct.
And then once you don't get anywhere, right? Obviously, you want to drive, you want to make money. Now you're losing income. So what did you do? What further steps did you take to solve this problem?
Well, just from being a longtime follower of RSG and learning that there's legitimate help out there to helping people get their accounts reactivated because first of all, I know there's the scams out there. Follow this account on Instagram, text this number on WhatsApp, we'll get you back. And I knew that those were all scams, but I knew RSG has valid resources to helping. And I went to the SmithMarco law firm, reached out to them, and right away they understood my issue and they knew exactly what the issue was, and they've seen the issue before.
Right. I mean, we have actually had Larry on Show Me the Money Club, I think, a couple of times, and they do a great job, obviously, with these erroneous background checks. And so the process was, how did that go? Like, obviously, you contact Larry Smith of Smith and Marco.
Yeah.
Who's a friend of the RideShare Guy on our channel. They have done wonderful things for different situations for different drivers. And once you contact them, how'd the process go?
So I contacted him, of course, free consultation, talk through the issue. He asked me to put together, all the documents, screenshots of my discussions with the companies, and how that went, and, proof of loss of income, et cetera, discussion with the DMV, sent that to him. And he, right away understood my issue. Like, I know they've seen this stuff before. And then they just went to bat for me, and, worked with the courts, and, it was a lot of back and forth. And finally were able to get me back on the platform. And then was able to get the case closed and resolve it to my satisfaction.
So how long of a process was that?
Oh, several months, and I was getting to the point where it's like, oh, is this really worth to keep fighting? I've got other platforms, but I was shocked when they contacted me and, had got resolved. And that note is still on my driver record that says administrative suspension. I don't think that will go away. But at least I know that how to go about it should this happen again. And the other interesting thing is that the one platform keeps the other platform deactivates me, and it's like they see the same records. So it was kind of hard to understand why one looks at it differently and the other one doesn't. So
that's exactly actually what I was going to ask you about, because since you said you're on multiple platforms, right?
Correct.
And they both use the same company to run a background check, right? And I'm going like, how is it that? And I hear this all the time, as you know, through Show Me the Money, we get a lot of emails and comments, and you help us with that, obviously, and you see it yourself, right? And so I'm on multiple platforms. They're using the same company to run background checks on me. One company says you're gone. The other company says, oh, you're fine. So to me, like, the consistency or the lack of consistency, obviously, the inconsistencies that exist in these background checks through the DMV and other issues that people face. Now, there's different types of background check. I mean, there's different types of deactivations, obviously. You could be deactivated through many reasons by these companies, which I don't think is fair anyway. Exactly. But in your case, it seems like, one company seeing something in your DMV records and the other company not seeing it is totally ridiculous. And then that's when Larry and his company steps up and protects your rights and then fights for you, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So I want to say it took several months. And it was, there's a lot of, work behind the scenes that I'm not involved in, that I was just waiting, for them to contact me and stuff. But the biggest thing was to keep record of, all the conversations I had, screenshots, save the emails and stuff. So that way, when they needed it, I was able to give it to them quickly, and they were able to use that as evidence.
Well, that's one thing we suggest constantly, right? When you're driving, even, take a lot of screenshots, save everything with these companies. Because look, I mean, as you know, I'm not a huge fanboy of these companies, right? And if you do not keep that evidence, right? I mean, we all have huge hard drives on our phones. What's the big deal?
Sure.
Just keeping screenshots for a month or two, and then if everything is cleaned up, you just
Mhm.
delete it afterwards, right? Because that's the only evidence you're going to have. You're going to have a whole bunch of chatting going on in app, with their support departments, and then most of the time it's cut and paste anyway. But
Mhm.
then, once they say you're gone, right, your livelihood is affected. And I know a lot of drivers who are specifically tied into just a single app, single company. And
Correct.
once that's over, it's over. There is no more money to be made for you, right? So luckily
Exactly.
you were on different apps and you were continuing to, drive and deliver and get some income out of it. But just the nuisance of it, I think, is ridiculous that these companies just cannot get their act together when it comes to these background checks. So in the
Exactly.
last final couple of minutes we have,
Yeah.
um, you know, would you recommend Larry and Smith and Marco to help drivers with these? Because as you correctly stated, by the way, there are a lot of scams out there that they're trying to
Mhm.
squeeze the last $100 out of a driver to get him back reactivated, right? And we should also make the distinction that you were just deactivated for a background check issue, and that's where Smith and Marco work on, as opposed to
Okay.
other deactivations that a human is not even involved, right? A passenger puts a
Mhm.
fraudulent claim against a driver. That's a different deactivation subject, and there are different companies that we know that work on those. But most of
Mhm.
those are scams, as you correctly stated. So give us a little bit about that last couple of minutes we have about Larry and Smith and Marco. And
Yeah.
obviously everything was resolved, right? You're back on the road with the company that deactivated you. And
Correct.
have you been, by the way, through another background check since then, since this situation was cleared up?
I don't think so. I haven't.
No. Okay.
Well, first of all, they might run background checks without my knowledge. I don't know. But
I don't think they can do that, but I
okay.
think overall though, right?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting once they
Well,
put you through another background check, and then if they do come up with the same thing again, maybe they didn't learn their lesson. I guess I don't know.
exactly. So yeah. So first of all, it's always I believe, a free consultation when you reach out to him. So yeah, I reached out. Told him my situation, and he right away got to work. Yeah, it was a very easy process. And listen, I am not familiar with, how the process of the legal system works in suing a company, so I was unfamiliar with that. And, but he dumbed it down for me, explained it to me, told me exactly what he needed from me and what I need to send to him, and was always there by email or phone should I had questions throughout the process. So,
Right, and ultimately the resolution was satisfactory, and
correct,
and you're back on the platform that you were deactivated from, right?
correct.
And that's all we can ask for somebody to work with us and help us out with, right? So I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I think this is a very, very important issue because I see countless and countless and countless emails every month, in my box saying that, oh,
Mhm.
I got deactivated, that they found something that has been there for all this time. Well, it seems like they just caught it. Well, it doesn't work like that. It's not that
Mhm.
easy. And if you do run into problems like Matt has, there are people out there who are looking for the benefit of the driver, and they're going to help you with it. So do not hesitate to contact them. It's free consultation anyway. So anything else you want to add, Matt?
No, yeah, just, go through the proper channels when you're working with these issues. Don't do the WhatsApp, Instagram, accounts because those are all fraud. But SmithMarco is definitely a good resource, and you can find links, I'm sure, on RSG in the probably the description below.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Okay, thank
doing this
you.
and notifying us of the problem. I personally didn't know it, but then once you said it, I think we need to put this out for the benefit of hundreds of thousands of drivers that watch us. And then I think this is a must that you have to know your rights and you have to fight for your rights. You just don't lay down and accept what these companies are saying. Anyway,
Yeah,
thank you again, Matt.
awesome.
We'll see you soon. Thanks a
Thanks,
lot.
Sergio. Take care.
Take care.